I was having the worst day of my life when I learned to read minds. And the first thing I learned was that my superpower was an idiot. It started with a cardboard box. I was standing outside the glass doors of Apex Digital, the midday sun beating down on me, a drop of sweat tracing a path down my temple and soaking into the cardboard. The box held the last 3 years of my life. A half-dead succulent, a coffee mug with the word hustle printed on it, a chip in the rim, and a stack of sticky notes I'd never used. 10 minutes earlier, my boss, Big Jim, had called me into his office, his greasy face stretched into a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Ethan, buddy, we're doing a little restructuring," he'd said, "and your position is, well, it's being made redundant." I just stared at him, saying nothing. That's when I heard it. A voice, clear as day, right inside my head. God, what's with the death glare? Kid looks like he wants to kill me. Get him out of here fast. The CEO's brother-in-law is waiting for this desk. I flinched, my eyes darting around the office. It was just me and Jim. He must have seen my confusion, because he cleared his throat and continued. "Don't you worry. The company will take care of you. You'll get the standard severance package. Every penny." Standard package? In his dreams. I'll have HR find a reason to dock half of it for performance issues. Kid's a pushover. He won't fight it. The voice was his, but the words were the opposite of what was coming out of his mouth. My heart dropped into my stomach. I wasn't an idiot. In that instant, I understood. I was hearing what he was actually thinking. A hot, white rage shot up from my feet. I stared at Big Jim, my nails digging into my palms, leaving little crescent moons in the skin. "Jim," I said, my voice quiet but sharp as ice. "The project I just landed brought in $1 million contract, and now you're letting me go." The fat on his face jiggled. He couldn't meet my eyes. "It's a corporate decision, Ethan. My hands are tied. Kid's got some nerve. So what if he landed the contract? My name is on the report. I get the credit. He gets the boot. Welcome to the real world, son." A corporate decision? I let out a bitter little laugh. "Funny, I saw you last night at the Gilded Glass, arm in arm with the CEO's brother-in-law, buying him ridiculously expensive whiskey." The color drained from Jim's face. How the hell does he know that? Shit, did he see us? No, deny everything. What are you talking about? He slammed a fleshy hand on his desk, his voice a pathetic attempt at outrage. "You're talking nonsense, Hayes. I'm warning you, don't spread baseless rumors. Now pack your desk and get out before I call security." I looked at his panicked, lying face, and a crazy idea began to form. I didn't say another word. I just gave him one last, long look, turned around, and walked out. This wasn't over. Clutching the box, the world felt gray and washed out. When it rains, it pours. My phone buzzed. A text from my girlfriend, Chloe. "We need to break up. You can't give me the life I want." Attached was a photo. Chloe, laughing, in the passenger seat of a red Porsche. The guy driving wore sunglasses, a gold watch glinting on his wrist. I recognized him. Mr. Vance, a rich client from the firm. My chest seized, a pain so sharp I couldn't breathe. My throat tightened, and my vision blurred. I wanted to text back, to scream, to demand an explanation, but my thumb hovered over the screen. I typed and deleted, until only one word remained. Okay. Then I deleted her number, the conversation, and that goddamn photo. I shoved the phone in my pocket and dropped the cardboard box next to a overflowing city trash can. Goodbye, hustle mug. Goodbye, 3 years of bullshit. I tilted my head back, staring into the blinding sun, and let out a long, ragged breath. Jobless and single in the span of 15 minutes. It felt like the universe had it out for me. And then, I heard another voice in my head. Ding. Host's emotional state has reached dumpster fire level. The useless mind-reading system is now activated. This system is dedicated to helping the host navigate the information age by filtering out all useful data and focusing exclusively on the most idiotic, mundane, and bizarre internal monologues. Have fun. What the hell? Was I hallucinating? Had I finally cracked? I shook my head, trying to dislodge the voice. A black Maybach pulled up silently to the curb, the rear window gliding down. My eyes drifted over and landed on the profile of a woman. She was stunningly beautiful, wearing a perfectly tailored black suit, with an aura so cold she could have frozen the summer heat. She was looking at a document, her brow furrowed slightly. These idiots. How can they screw up a proposal this simple? A $3 million loss this quarter? Do they expect me to start busking on a street corner? A cool, crisp, and surprisingly irritated female voice echoed in my head. I froze, my gaze locked on the Maybach. It was her. She looked so elegant and untouchable, but her inner monologue sounded like she was ready to flip a table. She must have felt me staring. She looked up, her icy gaze meeting mine. It felt like two daggers piercing right through me. I yelped internally and quickly looked down at my phone, pretending to be busy. What was he looking at? Has he never seen a woman before? Or is there something on my face? His eyes are vacant, expressionless. He looks like a complete moron. Still, not bad looking. What? Lady, your inner life is a roller coaster. I couldn't look back. I just ran a hand through my hair and walked away, my heart pounding. This mind-reading thing, it felt real, but also felt completely useless. What good was it to know someone was mentally calling me a moron? It just made me feel worse. Broke. I crashed in a 24-hour gaming cafe overnight. The next morning, with dark circles under my eyes, I started blasting my resume out to every job board I could find. Reality hit hard. My education and experience were nothing special. Dozens of applications vanished into the digital void. Just as I was about to give up, my phone rang. An unknown number. Hello, is this Ethan Hayes? This is Human Resources at EtherCorp. We received your application and would like to invite you for an interview tomorrow at 10 a.m. EtherCorp? My brain short-circuited. They were one of the biggest tech giants in the country, an industry titan. I didn't remember applying to them. It must have been one of those auto-match things on a job site. Why would a company like that even look at my resume? This Ethan Hayes guy, his resume is completely unremarkable. Why did Ms. Thorne personally flag him for an interview? So weird. That was the HR rep's last thought before she hung up. Ms. Thorne? My mind flashed back to the impossibly sharp face in the Maybach. It had to be her. But why would she want me to come in for an interview? I couldn't figure it out, but it was the only shot I had. The next day, I wore my only suit. It was a little old, but I'd ironed it meticulously. The EtherCorp headquarters was a glass and steel behemoth that scraped the sky, radiating an intimidating aura of money and power. I walked into the marble lobby feeling like an ant in a palace of giants. The receptionist, armed with a dazzling smile, directed me to the 32nd floor. The waiting area was packed with candidates, all decked out in expensive suits, their resumes glittering with Ivy League degrees and previous jobs at other big-name companies. I found a seat in the corner, feeling utterly out of place. My nerves kicked in. My palms started sweating, my leg doing a nervous bounce. I'm next. Gotta be confident. Look like a winner. Should I open with my elevator pitch in German? No, my accent's terrible. The guy in the gold-rimmed glasses next to me was having a full-blown panic attack in his head. That woman over there has amazing legs. Too bad her foundation is caked on like spackle. The thoughts of a guy with too much hair gel were less professional. What's for lunch? Tacos or a spicy chicken sandwich? This is so stressful. A serious-looking older man was deep in a culinary crisis. Listening to the chaotic, mundane thoughts of these so-called elites, my own anxiety started to fade. So, this is what the best and brightest thought about. It was comforting. Next, Ethan Hayes. My turn. I took a deep breath, straightened my tie, and walked into the interview room. 3 interviewers sat behind a long table, their faces stern and unsmiling. Mr. Hayes, please, tell us about yourself, the man in the middle said. I was about to launch into my rehearsed speech when the voices started up again. Here we go, another textbook answer. So boring. The kid looks sharp, but his resume is weak sauce. That was the guy on the left. His tie is off by like 3 degrees. It's killing my OCD. That was the woman on the right. I flinched, and without thinking, I reached up and adjusted my tie. The woman's eyes widened slightly. Whoa, did he know I was looking at his tie? Not bad, kids observant. I wasn't. It was an accident. Don't overthink it. Good morning. I clear my throat, abandoning my script. My name is Ethan Hayes. My resume is pretty straightforward. You could say it's like a blank canvas. And I believe a blank canvas is the best place to create a masterpiece. The middle interviewer pushed his glasses up his nose. So you're saying you lack experience, but you're adaptable? A nice way of saying he's a total rookie. What does Ms. Thorne see in him? Is he her nephew or something? A corner of my mouth twitched. No, I said, shaking my head and meeting his gaze, pulling an answer out of thin air. I'm saying that experience can sometimes be a cage. When you're facing a brand new field, a new challenge, a mind that isn't contaminated by old habits is the one that can produce the most raw and powerful creativity. I had no idea what I was talking about. I was just taking their internal criticisms and spinning them into the opposite. The three of them just stared at me. Damn, kid's got away with words. Never heard no experience sound so profound. It's bullshit, but it's really good bullshit. Did he just subtly call me a fossil? Interesting. I realized then that this useless, idiotic superpower might have a very specific, very strange use. It let me pinpoint their exact doubts and then counter them with a brand of eloquent nonsense that made them think, I don't get it, but it sounds brilliant. The rest of the interview was my show. What are your thoughts on our Ether Cloud initiative? We've sunk $1 billion into this thing and have seen zero return. If it doesn't take off soon, there are going to be layoffs. I pause for dramatic effect. I believe the biggest issue with Ether Cloud isn't technology or marketing. It's patience. Greatness requires time to mature. Rushing for results will only turn it into a very expensive failure. How would you respond to our competitor, Stellar Dynamics, and their low-price strategy? Those bastards at Stellar. All they know is how to start price war. No innovation, just a race to the bottom. So annoying. I smiled faintly. The best response is no response. Let them have their price war. We're not in the same business. When our technological superiority is self-evident, price becomes irrelevant. We shouldn't be selling a product. We should be selling the future. By the end of it, the way they looked at me had completely changed. It went from dismissal to surprise, and now was that respect. When I walked out, my shirt was soaked with sweat. I felt like I'd just gone 10 rounds in a heavyweight fight. I had no idea if I got the job, but I'd left it all on the field. I was waiting for the elevator when the door to an office next to me opened. A familiar figure stepped out. It was her, the Ice Queen from the Maybach. She traded the black suit for a crisp white one, making her look even more ethereal, but her face was just as cold. It was Isabella Thorne, the CEO of Ether Corp. My heart skipped a beat. I immediately looked down, pretending I hadn't seen her. The moron. I wonder how his interview went. Her voice popped into my head. The interviewer's report said he was a maverick, a once-in-a-century genius with unconventional insights. Genius? More like a world-class bullshitter. Still, the way he adjusted his tie was kind of cute. I almost stumbled. Cute? Did this Ice Queen CEO have a screw loose? The elevator doors opened. She stepped inside. I hesitated for a second, then followed her in. The small space felt charged with a strange energy. Her eyes were on me, and I felt like a bug under a microscope. You're Ethan Hayes? She asked suddenly. Her voice was as cool and as sharp as her appearance. Yes, I squeaked. You're hired. What? I was sure I'd misheard. Be here tomorrow. My office, she said, and then looked away. Let's see what you've really got. If you're just playing games, I'll personally show you how cold the wind is from the rooftop. The doors opened, and she walked out without a backward glance, the click of her heels echoing down the hall. I was left alone in the elevator, my mind reeling. I had somehow, inexplicably, just become the executive assistant to the CEO of Ether Corp. This whole thing was getting way too weird. The next day, I walked into the top floor of Ether Corp with a sense of impending doom. The CEO's office was absurdly large, with a floor-to-ceiling window that offered a panoramic view of the city. The decor was minimalist black, white, and gray, just like Isabella Thorne herself. It screamed, I'm expensive and you can't touch me. She was sitting behind a massive desk, her head bent over a file. Today she was in a slate gray suit, her long hair pinned up, revealing the elegant curve of her neck. She looked like a sculpture. I stood awkwardly at the door, unsure of what to do. He's here. Is he just going to stand there like a gargoyle? Doesn't he know how to knock? Right? Moron. Can't expect too much. Her voice in my head was my cue. I winced and raised a hand to knock on the open door. Come in, she said, not looking up. I walked in, my shoes silent on the plush carpet, and stood before her desk like a man awaiting his sentence. Ms. Thorne, I'm here to report for duty. She finally looked up, her gaze sweeping over me, still wearing that same suit. It's wrinkled. So poor. But he cleans up okay. A new wardrobe, and he might actually be presentable. My dignity was being ground into dust. Your job is simple, Isabella said, her voice flat. When I speak, you listen. When I give you an order, you follow it. Don't ask questions you shouldn't ask, and don't look at things that aren't your business. Understand. Understood, I said, nodding like a bobblehead, nodding like a woodpecker. One idiot. I clenched my jaw. For the paycheck, I would endure. These are all the project reports from the last quarter. She pushed a stack of binders toward me that was so tall it could have been its own skyscraper. By the end of the day, I want a summary report. I want you to identify the 3 projects with the biggest losses and propose a viable optimization strategy for each. I stared at the mountain of paper. My eyes nearly popped out of my head. That wasn't a day's work. That was a week's work minimum. The woman was trying to kill me. Oomph. A genius, they said. Let's see you analyze this. If you can't do it, you're out. Don't think I don't know you bullshitted your way through that interview. So that was her game. She was calling my bluff, setting me up to fail so she could expose me. The old me would have quit on the spot. But the new me had a secret weapon, the useless mind-reading system. It couldn't give me trade secrets, but maybe I could pick up some inspiration from all the background noise. Yes, Ms. Thorne, I said calmly, hoisting the stack of binders and moving to the small assistant's desk in the corner. I started flipping through the reports. Ether Corp was into everything: cloud computing, artificial intelligence, social media, mobile gaming. It was a dizzying blur of technical jargon and corporate doublespeak designed to hide any real problems. Hours passed. My head was spinning. Around noon, Isabella left for lunch, leaving me alone in the vast, silent office. I was starving, but the sight of those binders killed my appetite. Was this it? Was I going to get fired on my first day? Frustrated, I leaned back and closed my eyes, trying to mentally search through all the random work-related thoughts I'd overheard since I'd arrived. Ether Cloud has burned through $1 billion, and we still have nothing to show for it. Those bastards at Stellar Dynamics. All they know how to do is start a price war. That new game, Mystic Realms, the art style is a complete ripoff of Demon's Blade, isn't it? The project lead must be an idiot. Project Chimera in the AI lab sounds so creepy. Who's going to buy a robot spouse? I'd rather get a dog. A jumble of complaints and gossip echoed in my head. Suddenly, my eyes snapped open. That was it. I couldn't understand the complex data, but I could hear the most direct, unfiltered user feedback from the company's own employees. Their complaints pointed directly to the root of the problems. Energized, I grabbed a pen and scribbled down 3 project titles: Ether Cloud Mystic Realms, Mobile Game, Project Chimera, AI Lab. Now for the analysis and solutions. For Ether Cloud, I just recycle my interview bullshit about patience and selling the future, dressing it up in philosophical language so dense that you'd have to be a genius to understand it, or at least feel stupid for not getting it. For Mystic Realms, I used the overheard gossip and confidently stated that the game lacked originality, was a blatant copy of a competitor, and had uninspired gameplay. The solution? Kill the project immediately to cut our losses. Or reboot the whole thing from scratch with a unique identity. For Project Chimera, I went for the jugular. I wrote, "This project is fundamentally detached from basic human needs, an attempt to simulate complex emotions with cold data. It represents technological arrogance and a staggering lack of market awareness. Instead of investing a fortune into developing a robot spouse that no one will buy, the company would be better served." I paused. Better served by what? I thought for a moment, then wrote, "By addressing the romantic lives of its single male employees. A few company-sponsored mixers would be cheaper, more effective, and would boost morale and company loyalty." I had to stop myself from laughing out loud. If I turned this in, Isabella would probably fire me out of cannon. But then I thought, if I'm going down, I'm going down in a blaze of glory. At 5:30, Isabella returned. The click of her heels on the floor was like a countdown to my execution. She stopped at my desk and held out a perfectly manicured hand. The report. I handed over the few pages I'd written. She took them, leaned against my desk, and began to read. The office was dead silent except for the soft rustle of paper. My heart was pounding against my ribs. I braced for the storm. Ether Cloud. Patience and maturity. Is this kid trying to be my life coach? Mystic Realms. A copy? How'd he know? Only a few senior execs know about that. We've been trying to keep it quiet. Project Chimera. Technological arrogance. He's right. I've been saying this project is a dog for months. Those old dinosaurs on the board just wouldn't listen. Address single employees. Mixers? What kind of insane logic is that? I was stunned. Her inner monologue wasn't rage. It was agreement? And was that a hint of amusement? She finished reading, her face still an unreadable, icy mask. She looked up at me, her expression complicated. You wrote this? Yes. In one afternoon? Yes. She was silent for a long moment, gripping the pages so tightly her knuckles went white. A monster. This kid is an absolute monster. Who is he? Is he a corporate spy? No, a spy wouldn't suggest a singles mixer. He pinpointed the core issues of all three projects with terrifying accuracy, especially the Mystic Realms plagiarism. Even I only suspected it. I had no proof. How did he dig up the truth from a pile of sanitized reports in just a few hours? She seemed to be having an existential crisis. Little did she know my intelligence came from the collective bitching of the entire company. You, she started to say, then stopped. Ms. Thorne, I decided to press my luck. If that's all, I'll be heading home for the day. Wait, she said. She opened a drawer and took out a black credit card, holding it out to me. What's this? I asked. Wardrobe allowance, she said. Starting tomorrow, you represent my office. Try to look the part. That shabby suit is an eyesore. Get rid of it. There's $500,000 on the card. Pin is 6/8. If he dares to waste it, then again, the moron probably doesn't even know where to find a luxury store. $500,000. My hand trembled as I took the card. I'd never even seen $50,000 in one place. This was insane. Thank you, Ms. Thorne. I couldn't hide the excitement in my voice. Gold digger. Her mind quipped, but I could feel something else under it. The ghost of a smile. The head of the Mystic Realms project is coming to report to me tomorrow, she said, gathering up my report. You'll sit in. Yes, Ms. Thorne. I walked out of that office holding the black card, feeling like I was floating, from fired to having a $500,000 clothing budget in a single day. The highs and lows were giving me whiplash. And for the first time, I thought, maybe this useless mind-reading thing wasn't so useless after all. The next day, I walked into a high-end men's store and, enduring the sales associates, did you get lost? Stare. I used Isabella's black card to buy a whole new wardrobe. When I showed up at the office in a tailored Armani suit, my hair professionally styled, even I barely recognized myself in the elevator's reflection. Isabella was sipping coffee when I walked in. The cup paused halfway to her lips. Well, much better. The clothes really do make the man. He looks completely different. Almost handsome. Stop it. Focus. Work. She quickly composed herself, her Ice Queen mask back in place. Sit. I sat, feeling the expensive fabric move with me. I was starting to understand the appeal of being rich. At 10 o'clock sharp, Mr. Lee, the head of the Mystic Realms project, knocked and entered. He was a balding man in his 40s with a beer gut and a shrewd look in his eyes. Ms. Thorne, you wanted to see me, he said, bowing slightly, a greasy smile plastered on his face. He glanced at me, sitting beside her, a flicker of contempt in his eyes. Who's this? The new boy toy? Didn't know she was into that. I kept my face perfectly neutral. Mr. Lee, Isabella began, I need an explanation regarding Mystic Realms. An explanation? Lee feigned innocence. Ms. Thorne, the project is proceeding smoothly. We're on track for beta testing next month. This young woman doesn't know the first thing about game development. This project is my golden goose. I'm not letting her kill it. Isabella slid my report across the desk. It has been brought to my attention that the game is a potential copy of Demon's Blade. Lee's face twitched, but he recovered quickly. He scanned the report and scoffed. Ms. Thorne, that's absurd. In the gaming industry, it's common to borrow gameplay elements and art styles. To call it plagiarism is a gross exaggeration. He shot a look in my direction. I don't know which expert wrote this, but they clearly don't understand our business. This is just armchair quarterbacking. Kid doesn't know jack squat. Once the game launches and the money starts rolling in, no one will care if it was copied. I'll be swimming in bonuses. Listening to his inner monologue, I understood. This guy was going to lie his way to the bitter end. Isabella frowned. She had her suspicions, but no hard proof. Lee was an old office politician. Taking him down wouldn't be easy. The room was thick with tension. Then I spoke. Mr. Lee, I said slowly, looking right at him. I hear the lead artist for Demon's Blade was your junior in college. Is that right? Lee's eyes widened in shock. How does he know that? I never told anyone. I don't know what you're talking about, he said, trying to stay calm. I smiled. I also heard that you met with him last month at the Jade Pagoda Tea House on the south side. You gave him a very thick envelope. This, of course, wasn't from some deep investigation. It was from two junior developers I'd overheard gossiping in the break room yesterday. Did you hear? I think Fat Lee bought the art assets from the Demon's Blade guys. No way. That explains why our character models look exactly the same. I saw him sneaking off to meet someone last week. I thought it was just rumors. Now it was my ammunition. Sweat beaded on Lee's forehead. His face was pale. You're making things up. I was repaying a loan. Repaying a loan? My voice was laced with amusement. In a thick manila envelope, in a secluded tea house? Mr. Lee, we're all adults here. Let's not make this ugly. I watched him, my power zeroed in. It's over. How's he know everything? Did he have me followed? No way. Who is this kid? I can't admit it. Deny everything until I die. Seeing his internal panic, I knew I had him. Ms. Thorne, I said, turning to Isabella. I suggest we immediately launch an internal audit of the Mystic Realms project finances, especially the contracts with third-party art vendors. Furthermore, we should pull Mr. Lee's travel and communication records for the last month. With every word I spoke, Lee's face grew paler. When I mentioned his communication records, his last line of defense shattered. With a choked sob, his legs gave out, and he nearly collapsed. Ms. Thorne, I was wrong. I was greedy. It'll never happen again, he blubbered, tears and snot running down his face. Please, just give me one more chance. Isabella stared at the dramatic scene, utterly speechless. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of shock and bewilderment. This man was an enigma. It was like he had X-ray vision that could see through any lie, any deception. How? How did he do that? For the first time, Isabella Thorne was truly, deeply curious about a man. In the end, Lee was fired and the project was completely overhauled. The scandal was contained before it could do any real damage. I, on the other hand, became a legend overnight. The name Genius echoed through the executive suites of EtherCorp. Everyone knew that Ms. Thorne had a mysterious new right-hand man, an operative with uncanny instincts and ruthless efficiency. I, of course, knew none of this. I just knew my job was getting weirder. Isabella started taking me to all her most important meetings and negotiations. My only job was to sit there like a silent, well-dressed statue. Then, when things got tough, she'd give me a subtle look. I would then listen to the other party's thoughts and drop a completely random, unnerving comment into the conversation. Once, we were negotiating with a supplier who refused to lower his price. If I drop another 5%, I'll be losing money. Gotta hold firm. My wife wants a Birkin for her birthday next month. At Isabella's signal, I took a slow sip of my tea. You can always make more money, I said casually. But your wife's birthday only comes once a year. The supplier looked at me like he'd seen a ghost. We got an 8% discount. Another time, we were competing for a major contract. The rival exec was giving a flawless presentation. Our proposal is perfect. The only weakness is that the servers might crash during heavy rain, but there's no way they'd know that. I cleared my throat. The forecast for next month is looking pretty wet. The guy almost fell out of his chair. We won the contract. Soon, I had a new nickname around the office, Ethan the Oracle. On the negotiation floor, a single sentence from me could shatter our opponent's confidence. Isabella relied on me more and more, and her curiosity only grew. She looked at me like she wanted to crack my head open and see what was inside. Meanwhile, I was living in a constant state of anxiety, terrified that my bluff would be called at any moment. Our relationship grew stranger, more complex. We were boss and employee, but not really. Isabella was still an ice queen, but I could feel the glacier beginning to melt. She started remembering that I hated cilantro. She'd have her secretary order me food when I worked late. And her inner monologue changed. The moron and idiot were replaced with That suit looks good on him. Makes his legs look long. Did he just smile? I think he has a dimple. Maybe I should find an excuse to ask him to dinner tonight. Every time I heard these thoughts, I had to fight to keep a straight face, to pretend I knew nothing. It was a strange, thrilling game of push and pull. But the peace didn't last. A storm was gathering on the horizon. One morning, the atmosphere in the office was all wrong. People were rushing around, their faces grim. When I entered Isabella's office, she was standing at the window, her expression colder than I'd ever seen it. "We have a problem," she said. "What's wrong?" "Our new social media app, Echo, was scheduled to launch next week. This morning, Stellar Dynamics released an identical product. They copied everything, right down to the user interface." My stomach dropped. Stellar Dynamics, our mortal enemy. "The source code was leaked," Isabella said, a note of exhaustion in her voice. "We have a mole. It was a catastrophe. Echo was EtherCorp's flagship project for the year. All that time, all that money, gone. The company's stock was about to plummet. Can you find out who it is?" I asked. She shook her head. They were clean. Server logs wiped. No traces. Her eyes met mine, and in them I saw a desperate plea. "Ethan, right now, you're the only one who can help me." She was betting everything on me, the mystery man. The pressure was immense. My little mind-reading parlor tricks were one thing. This was corporate espionage. Could I really pull this off? "Please, I don't know how you do what you do, but please, help me this time." Hearing her silent plea, my resolve hardened. I took a deep breath and nodded. "I'll do my best." An emergency meeting was called. Every core member of the Echo project was summoned to the main conference room. The air was thick enough to choke on. Isabella sat at the head of the table, her gaze sweeping over them like a searchlight. "The traitor," she said, her voice dangerously quiet, "is in this room." Everyone stared at the table, refusing to meet her eyes. I sat beside her, closed my own, and cranked my mind-reading radar to maximum. A flood of useless thoughts washed over me. "Oh man, the project's dead. There goes my bonus. Who would do this? What scumbag? I hope they catch him and throw him in jail." "Ms. Thorne looks terrifying right now. What's for lunch?" "Never mind, I've lost my appetite." Nothing. It was all garbage. I started to sweat. The mole had nerves of steel. They were probably keeping their mind completely blank. I couldn't find them. The minutes ticked by. The hope in Isabella's eyes began to fade. Just as I was about to give up, the conference room doors swung open. A familiar, smug face appeared. It was Vance, Chloe's new boyfriend. He wasn't alone. Chloe was clinging to his arm, a triumphant smirk on her face. "Isabella," Vance said, strolling in like he owned the place. "Long time no see." "Vance," Isabella's voice was tight. "What are you doing here?" "I'm here to talk business," he said, leaning against the table, looking down on her. "I heard your Echo project ran into a little snag. Don't worry. On behalf of Stellar Dynamics, I'm prepared to offer you $100 million to acquire your dead-in-the-water project. How about it? Am I not a generous man?" It was a calculated, public humiliation. Chloe caught my eye from across the room, her expression dripping with contempt. "See, Ethan, this is the difference between you and me. You're still just a glorified assistant. My man is the one who decides your boss's fate." My fist clenched. I didn't care about Chloe's taunts, but I saw Isabella's shoulders tremble with rage. I wanted to protect her. $100 million. Isabella laughed, a cold, sharp sound. "Are you trying to buy a pack of gum, Vance?" "Don't play tough, Isabella," he chuckled. "Without Echo, Ether stock is going to drop 20 points by tomorrow. Who knows if you'll even have a job then?" His arrogance was suffocating. I forced myself to be calm. I closed my eyes again, and this time, I focused all my energy on Vance. "Huh, so high and mighty, Isabella Thorne. But you'll have to bow to me in the end. Once I acquire Ether, you'll be mine too. This plan was perfect. Thanks to my inside man, I got the source code cheap. The kid was greedy, wanted $5 million. Stupid. Once this is all over, I'll have him taken care of. He won't see a dime. God, I'm a genius. Ha ha. My eyes snapped open. I had it. The key. The mole wanted $5 million. That was my way in. But I didn't say anything. I just kept listening as Vance continued to gloat. My eyes scanned the room and landed on a young man in the corner. A quiet programmer named Kevin Miller, someone who never stood out. Right now, he was staring at his hands, his whole body trembling slightly. I shifted my focus to him. 5 million. Vance said the money would be in my Swiss account by now. Where is it? Is he going to screw me over? Don't panic. They can't trace anything to me. I was careful. As soon as the money lands, I'm on the first flight out of here. Ethan, why is he looking at me? Does he know? No, he can't. It's impossible. Gotcha. My heart hammered in my chest. I looked from the terrified Kevin to the arrogant Vance. A plan, reckless and brilliant, formed in my mind. It was time for some theater. Mr. Vance. I stood up, breaking the stalemate. Every eye in the room turned to me. Ethan, Chloe sneered. Does anyone care what you have to say? I ignored her and walked right up to Vance, a cryptic smile on my face. Let's stop playing games, I said, my voice low but carrying through the silent room. Do you really think you've won? Vance looked confused. What are you talking about? I'm talking. I leaned in, whispering so only he could hear, about the $5 million you paid the mole. We've already traced the wire transfer. It came from an offshore money laundering account, didn't it? The color drained from Vance's face. How does he know that? Impossible. That account is untraceable. His inner scream was music to my ears. I knew I was right. I had just guessed, spinning a story from the keywords I'd plucked from his mind, and it had worked. I stood up straight, raising my voice so everyone, especially Kevin, could hear. And we have identified the mole. Ms. Thorne is prepared to offer a deal. If he comes forward now and agrees to testify against the person who put him up to it, the company will be lenient. In a corner, Kevin started shaking uncontrollably. A deal? Leniency? They're lying. They'll hand me over to the cops, and Vance is no help. He'll throw me under the bus in a second. What do I do? What do I do? Kevin's mind was a maelstrom of panic. You're bluffing. Vance stammered, pointing a trembling finger at me. I don't know anything about a mole or $5 million. Really? I smiled. I turned, and my eyes locked onto Kevin Miller in the corner. Kevin, I shouted. The programmer shot out of his chair as if he'd been electrocuted. It wasn't me. I don't know anything, he yelled. His panic denial was a confession. A wave of understanding and disgust washed over the room. You were the mole. You traitorous piece of crap. The accusations rained down on him. Kevin's face went white. His composure finally snapped. He spun around and pointed a shaking finger at Vance. It was him, he shrieked. He made me do it. He promised me $5 million for the code. Don't arrest me. Arrest him. The room erupted. Vance's face turned a deep, ugly shade of red. He never imagined his disposable pawn would turn on him. You're lying, he roared. No, I'm not. Kevin fumbled for his phone and hit play on a recording. I recorded our last meeting, just in case. Vance's voice, clear as day, filled the room, haggling over the price of betrayal. It was undeniable proof. He collapsed into a chair, his face ashen. It was over. Chloe just stood there, staring at the pathetic heap that was Vance, then at me, standing in the center of the room, looking for all the world like I was in control of everything. Her entire world had just been turned upside down. The crisis was averted. The police arrived and took Vance and Kevin away. The storm that could have sunk Ether Corp had been dissipated by one impossible bluff. The executives in the room were looking at me with something beyond respect. It was awe. They were looking at me like I was a god. Isabella walked over to me. Her beautiful eyes were shining with an emotion I'd never seen before. She didn't say a word. She just reached out and gently straightened my collar, which had gotten rumpled in the chaos. Thank you. Her thought was a whisper in my mind. I heard it. I looked at her face, so close to mine, and breathed in her subtle perfume. My heart began to race. Are you free tonight? She asked, her voice barely audible. I want to take you to dinner. I smiled. I am, I said. And even if I weren't, I'd make time. At that moment, the sun broke through the clouds, streaming through the window and bathing us both in a golden light. Our story was just beginning. Epilogue. 1 year later. I was now the vice president of Ether Corp. I was lounging on the sofa in Isabella's office, watching her work. In the past year, my useless superpower had helped her navigate countless crises, doubling Ether Corp's market value. Our relationship was the company's worst-kept secret. What are you thinking about? She asked, putting down her work and coming to sit beside me, her head resting on my shoulder as if it had always belonged there. I was just thinking How did you even notice me in the first place? I asked. When I interviewed, I was broke, my resume was a joke, and I was basically a mess. It was the one part of the story that never quite added up. Isabella just smiled, a private, knowing look in her eyes. Curious, I activated my power, ready to hear her usual witty, sarcastic inner thoughts. But the voice I heard this time wasn't hers. It was cold, mechanical, and devoid of all emotion. Perfect boyfriend cultivation project. Phase 1, complete. Host, Isabella Thorne. Target, Ethan Hayes. Mission, through a series of coincidences and tests, develop Target from a generic office drone into a corporate elite capable of standing beside the host. Auxiliary tool, the useless mind-reading system, dispatched to Target. Phase 1 reward. Target's affection for host has reached 100%. Initiating Phase 2, marriage proposal. The smile on my face froze. Slowly, mechanically, I turned my head to look at the beautiful, smiling woman beside me. So, my superpower wasn't a random miracle. My getting hired, my meteoric rise. It wasn't luck. From the very beginning, I had been the target of a mission, and the woman I loved, she wasn't just my boss or my girlfriend. She was the player, and I was the game. Isabella saw the stunned look on my face. She blinked, and a mischievous, triumphant smile spread across her lips. She leaned in close, her lips brushing against my ear, and whispered, her voice a purr that sent a shiver down my spine. So, do you still think you got this job by chance, my little genius?